Red Goblin, a complete damage machine and a little bit of power control? Yes, let's do a little bit of an overview video. Yes, right here I've got a Red Goblin. Does this champion tick all the boxes out there for content grind? No, it does not. Now, when preparing this video and researching it, I decided to look at different areas like Act 6.4. And the biggest problem, where there's elements of things when, you know, you've got this track in, it's just like, right, rotations wise. You have to focus too much on the rotations and as well the specific nature of Act 6.4 in general and Act 6.4.4, where we've got the, we've got this track. And then compare it to stuff like Buffed Up. Two things that have been put into Cavalier difficulty very recently, and it's something I think Kabam will like keep rolling out just to get people familiarized with this stuff. 6.1, for a lot of that, this champion would be viable for it, especially from a point of like, there's nothing overstacking with the nodes. When you get to the likes of 6.2, and with most champions this is the case, it's not one size fits all. Yeah, okay, with life cycle you can go heavy attack and then throw an SP3, but the same problem is, well, what's the point of doing that? The rotation doesn't work for that. 6.2.3 maybe, but again, same problem with Icarus. You're throwing a heavy attack to take off Fury buffs, but the champion's then getting more Fury buffs down the line based on damage output and stuff like that, so it doesn't really work too well. I guess it only really works for 6.2.4 in that destructive feedback. When you're hitting into the champion, it's a case that's okay, it's good. It means that by the end of it, it's going to be like a huge amount of like pop of damage, and the enemy's going to be down. But I don't know if there's any viability in that. 6.3, however, there's a lot in 6.3 the champion could be good against going with, but it's hard to kind of like test every single path, especially with the specific nature of it. So let's focus on what the champion's really known for. Now, to the champion's credit and as well its detriment is that it is all about big buffs and big yellowy but also debuff numbers. And that's real through a situation of rotation and rotation with gaining buffs. Kabam's developer notes and process, which I did try to follow, but at times it's very difficult to think, am I overthinking a champion? And that's one thing that it's just not a me thing. With 170 champions in the game, overthinking and as well trying to figure out all these rotations, it's really difficult to do, but you have to do your best. So essentially, following what Kabam have said is that we've got to build to an energize buff, and what I usually do with this is kind of throw off the SP1 or build past an SP1, so I'm building power, and then get that energize buff and then move on to the SP3. At times I was just looking to put the aptitude buff in, and if you don't know, aptitude is all about improving the potency of your armors, your furies, etc. So all the kind of the positive effects that go on you. Whereas Energize is a little bit different. Energize is to improve combat power rate and Aptitude increasing the potency of these Energize buffs by 75%. So it all helps out one another to the damage output of the champion. That's basically it. Even more so when you're kind of looking to put your Fury attack as being the last thing you do. And as Kabam say, kind of move on to SP3 from getting the Energize buff. So you do a light attack, and then you throw a special attack. As I said, build past the first bar of power to close to the second bar of power. Push on to the SP3. On the SP3, as is said here, you then activate your Frenzy and inflict 7 random Carnage Bomb debuffs with 50% increased duration, which is important. And Kabam say here, Frenzy is the icing. It's great on this one on its own, but when added to a well-prepared cake, the two become something so far beyond what they could have been alone. Make sure the icing is prepared before you launch the special 2 so you can eat your cake immediately. And that seemed to be like what I was trying to do, and I don't know if it's the right way. It just kind of felt like it was, again, trying not to overcomplicate the champion from a point of going, look, let's just throw the SP1, get that energized, move on to the SP3, going into the SP3, have the aptitude, and then what I've done then is I've probably got like 2 stacks of those particular buffs when in Frenzy. And then it's a case that what I've done is I've gone to the SP2 and I spammed that, and then tried to build up to another SP2 and spam that. It usually meant for like a good amount of damage in a quick succession. I did this with the champion unawakened, and then looked to put the awakened version in. And as well, as I got to about 4 Bloodlust to then 5, I then decided to switch over the champion from being an awakened to an unawakened to an awakened. So like once the champion was awakened, then the potency improved dramatically. Because it's kind of a weird setup to have this signature ability where special attacks generate +1 symbiote buffs with a 35% reduced potency. So it means you're able to, when you throw a special attack, get more symbiote buffs. More symbiote buffs mean more damage. And that's the thing, guys. With the unawakened version, I was finding that I wasn't getting up to the same amount of damage output, especially from what I saw from Dave's video. And the fact is, and something to bear in mind is that even though there were like really good numbers there, those debuff damages were high. Something to point out is the deep dive. That video was done with Suicide Masteries. Do I recommend this? Yeah, if you've got Suicide Masteries, you're going to do a load of damage, a lot more than anything that you're going to see in this video, maybe as well to the same value as what you're going to see in other people's videos. But that's the thing. Awakened version, get more symbiote buffs, or more aptitude, more fury, more energized. Once you've got more of those buffs, you're able to do more damage. But as long as you keep the rotation high and also keep it well. The more special attacks you do, the more buffs you're going to get. It's kind of effectively, that is it. Now, I do think it's very much possible if you're able to keep up the pressure and do debuffs, which will be the incinerates, it will be the armor breaks, and as well it will be the power locks. As long as you're able to keep up that, you will be able to do like a really good amount of damage in diss track. The only exception, and the only reason I'm not kind of showcasing any footage, is we don't have access to anything that's just a straight diss track, unless I have to go up against stuff that, you know, requires like the scuffiness of like energy absorption or energy whatever it is from getting either incinerated or getting cold snap. So one of those two things, which causes the issue of going like, hey, if there's a straight diss track, hey, that's good. If there's not, and there's something else as an extra node that the champion can't bypass and there's no immunity to, then that does cause a concern there. So apart from that, yeah, great so far with what I saw with this champion. The champion's persistent nature is so darn important, especially if you want to maximize damage output. As we said before, like, and even as Kabam was saying, like the reason behind the push to the SP3 is to activate Frenzy. If very early on you're going into Frenzy, and as well you've got 5 of those Bloodlust, so 5 of those Persistence, it does mean that you're going to get attack rating improvements, like 314.7 attack rating based on starage and rarity and whatnot. And that is going to be really effective for your damage output. It does say about stack potency is reduced, like it's 15% reduced potency. But at the same time, again, process. And that's why Kabam is saying that the way to go with this is to do an SP1 to get energized, then go up to the SP3 to grab, and again, it's your choice. I'm an aptitude, and then working in order to gather the SP2 to then hit in the Fury. But again, how you decide to rotate through this champion for damage output is totally up to you. I like this champion for debuff damage output, for I'd say kind of not raw damage output, I'd say buffed up damage output, not the node, but kind of being buffed up with buffs. It's a cosmic, so yeah, very enjoyable. But at the same time, there are limitations to going up against certain things. Is it total utility? No. Does it have a load of immunities? No. We've got power burn immunity, incinerate immunity. It's not a one size fits all. It's a one size fits, I don't know, 60 to 70% of the nodes that could be potentially out there in the game, for example. So yeah, it's a really good champion. Lots of damage, lots of decent options for awakened ability. Good unawakened. Yeah, he's alright unawakened, but as well, it just goes down to the extent of, do you want more buffs? If you want more buffs, then you're going to have to awaken the champion, and at the same time think about putting a lot of signature stones on to improve the potency reduction, which you can see on the screen, but that would be a personal preference. Now, I'm not going to go over the full synergies. I'm going to put them into like separate videos and stuff and trying to pad them up with other synergies and stuff. I've got an I Am Patriot one coming out the weekend. I've also got another one on Symbiote Spider-Man, which will probably be out a bit later on after this video. But yeah, it's good for the point of gaining Bloodlust. If you want to gather the Bloodlust quickly, then having some of the synergies in place will be good, but at the same time, there is the limitation of going, do these synergies, or do these champions help out a team, and does it kind of cover a lot of bases, which at the end of the day, with nodes doubling, even tripling in Act 6, is it correct to set up a team around this champion? I personally would think it's more of a monthly quest or specific challenge, or even like Realm of Legends, which with this particular team, you could probably just blast through a lot of that. Even a 4-star would put in some good damage and some good work, providing you had a 99 signature max, and as well had a good team in backing, especially champions that would be able to deal with some of the ones like the regen of Wolverine. My final thoughts on Red Goblin is he's really good. I do like the rotations, but sometimes I do feel that, you know, there's a lot of pressure to do those rotations. And as well, is it a one-size-fits-all to go, look, let's do SP1 on, say, a light finish, get energized, go up to SP3 on an aptitude finish, and then do the SP2 on a fury finish in order to maximize damage output, and especially then go from fight to fight. Is that the same thing you have to do each fight, or will that largely change depending on the dynamic of nodes? And nodes are going to be quite crucial, and I think this champion is going to be one of those that it's good to see all those big numbers, but at the same time it's going, look, is this going to be right for this? And again, going down to the specific nature of Act 6 of the Cavalier difficulty, it's going to be like, oh, I'd use my Red Goblin. Oh, it doesn't apply because that node's going to counteract. Like, if you're being power locked, then that's bad. You're not going to be able to build up to the power. If you're being nullified, then that buff creation causes an issue. So again, like I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and it will come unstuck against certain things. He needs the buffs, and also at the same time, he needs to put in debuffs. And if there's a champion that would nullify the buffs or be incinerate immune, that causes a problem. So it's not a one-size-fits-all for this champion. It's good to see those numbers, and it'll be amazing for Suicide Masteries. It's just a case of be cautious that this champion won't be for everything, especially going up against the line of Mystics or nodes that would stagger or Fate Seal or things like that would cause that particular issue. But apart from that, good damage, amazing to see this particular champion have symbiote type things of buff creation, and as well have elements of debuff damage. But in any case, what is everybody's thoughts on this champion? Go and check out the deep dive. I've put a link in the description. The spotlight as well, that's been quite helpful, and as well any other people that might have posted content on it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Do make sure to catch up some recent content which is posted on screen at the moment. Just a video I posted today, and we've got the Symbiote Spider-Man video coming out a bit later on. I appreciate you all. Thanks, and see you in the stream later on tonight.